Good morning, everybody. We've been kind of sat here in the background just waiting for the right number of people to join. So we've got 27 on already. It's always that kind of difficult point of do we wait for more or do we get going? So let's make a start. Good morning and welcome to today's webinar looking at Amazon Prime Day. I suspect most of you, or I hope most of you, are from the Amazon community. If not, we've got something pretty wrong for this event, and you'll have all heard a hell of a lot, possibly too much last week about Prime Day. So what we wanted to do today was continue our expert series webinars, share some data and some insight that we found as an agency that we've kind of taken from the market, but also that our two guests have seen from the businesses that we're working and the clients in the case of Becca that they represent. So before I kind of delve into sharing some information, some data, maybe I could just start with some quick introductions. Quick introduction from myself for those that haven't joined a webinar before. I'm Andy Banks. I'm the founder of VentureForge, and we're an Amazon agency representing about 40 to 50 million pounds of annual revenue on Amazon at the moment for our clients. We help clients build their business on Amazon, and I always say today's not a sales pitch, so I'll probably just leave it there before maybe handing over to you, Ananda. Would you mind to give us a quick introduction to who you are and where you're from?
Yes, so my name is Ananda. I work at Apply Nutrition, a sports nutrition brand. We are based in Liverpool and trading on Amazon for 3 years now.
I'm doing very well at it, I understand.
Yes.
Brilliant. How about you, Becca?
Morning, everybody. So I'm Becca. I'm an account director for VentureForge. I've been with the business for nearly 3 years now, and I oversee a team of senior account managers, and then I'm responsible for all their clients as well. So around 17 clients that I oversee. I've been on Amazon for about 8 years, which always makes me feel really old. But here we are.
I'm going to avoid any comments there because most age jokes always end up back at my doorstep, so I'll probably hold off on that one for now.
Thank you.
Before I get into sharing some of the information we've got, I mean, our webinar format is very much a conversation, but today, because it's after Prime Day, we've got a few stats that we want to share. So I will put a very brief presentation up in a bit because I think that helps get across some of what we've seen as an agency and what we've seen across the market before I then kind of spend some time interviewing, prodding, probing Ananda and Becca and finding out what they've been doing in their businesses and how Prime Days work for them. I hope you guys that are listening have got some questions. I'm pretty sure as we go along, they will come up. So if you have a quick look down the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the questions tab. Please get your questions in as we go. Ask anything you want to ask. We've got a couple of great guys on the call here. There will be things that we can't share. We're not going to sit here and say this specific client did exactly this revenue, but we'll answer as much as we can. That's what today is all about, is being honest and open and helping you that are watching this take as much as you can. So get the questions coming in. We'll get to those at the end, and we'll try and pick from those the ones that are going to have kind of the most benefit to the people that are watching today. So without further ado, let me share a quick presentation with you. We've only got a handful of slides in here. What I'm suspecting we'll get from today's conversation is maybe some kind of topics around surprising results. Some brands have done Prime Day, some brands haven't engaged in Prime Day as much. How those brands performed is actually quite interesting from the data I've seen from our business and our client portfolio and some of the bits that Ananda has shared with me already. So let's have a quick walk through what actually happened on Prime Day 2023. Amazon hasn't yet released any official data, but taking data from Adobe Analytics, it's looking like Prime Day 2023 in the UK generated about £1.2 billion worth of sales over the 2 days of the 11th and 12th of July. Now that's showing that's about 2.4% up year on year, which for Amazon Prime Day in the UK makes it Amazon's biggest ever event. I think that's kudos to Amazon, kudos to all of you as brands that have made the most of this, and kudos to all the partners, be it software partners, agencies that are making that happen. That's a great level of sales, great activity, and in this economic climate to be driving that, that's actually a pretty good performance all round. How did it look across the 2 days? Where I saw this data from Adobe, this was hugely surprising. It actually looks like day 2 of Prime Day was slightly bigger than day 1, which is quite different to what's been seen in the past. Both days were up year on year, and it looks like day 1 was up just over 1%, and day 2 was just up over 3%. Either way, kind of both landing at just over £500,000 on each of the 2 days. But we have this thing kind of knocking around. I say knocking around, I suspect we've probably heard about it. If it was from the BBC News this morning, you've certainly heard about it. Inflation is up 7.9%. So it's just begged the question of, if Prime Day is trading up 2 point something percent, but inflation's up 7.9, is that really growth, or is this increasing selling prices that are actually driving that? And if we could get down to this at a order or a unit level, actually what is happening behind the scenes, is this real growth in volume, or is it growth in value driven by inflation? So I think this, for me, is where I start to ask some serious questions about Prime Day and its role for a business. Why would you do it? Why do you get involved? Is it really going to drive the growth that you're looking for? Fundamentally, yes, it has. Those sales numbers are phenomenal, and what that means for brands is phenomenal. But I think hopefully one track plan here is you've got to start to scratch beneath the surface rather than just looking at the superficial reasons that you can do Prime Day and the high level stats that come out. Potentially Prime Day has actually gone backwards if inflation has been the contributor to the growth of value. One really interesting stat that's starting to come out is that 13% of Amazon Prime Day purchases were paid for on buy now, pay later. So that's 13% of over £1 billion in revenue has been paid for in a finance agreement via Amazon. Now that's a huge development. You're seeing how many people are willing to spend on credit and finance on Amazon. Potentially that's more kind of skewed by where the economy is at the moment and the need to do that, but potentially is starting to lean towards the number of high value purchases, big ticket purchases that people are taking on Prime Day. Ananda and I were just talking about coffee machines. I don't know if Ananda put that on buy now, pay later, but people are buying those higher value, higher ticket items. And perhaps Amazon are now starting to use buy now, pay later as a mechanism of driving value up, enticing people to buy electronics, TVs, homeware, etc., and giving them a mechanism to pay for that rather than just having to find £200, £400, £500 on Prime Day. So moving on from kind of general market data and looking at what did we see in VentureForge. So what we've taken here is VentureForge's sales. As I say, we represent somewhere between about 40 and 50 million of annual revenue on Amazon across our client portfolio. And we've aggregated all of that data together and looked at what happened over the month of July versus the month of June to give a comparison to kind of where did sales lag at all, where did they grow, and what did the shape of Prime Day look like as an event. And what we think we've seen through this is around the 8th of July, 7th to 8th, we started to see a dip in month-on-month performance. So this is a like-for-like client portfolio comparison. And we started to sense that people are starting to wait for deals. This is around when Amazon started to ramp up their TV media spend, when the consumer started to hear Prime Day is coming and really start to believe into it. Actually, on the 10th, that sales performance went up ahead of Prime Day. So this lag might not be as black and white as you expect it to be. And on the 10th, month-on-month performance and down-day performance actually went up quite significantly. Still around the benchmarks that we'd expect though for that time in the month. Then we saw Prime Day 1 kick off significantly, really, really great level of sales acceleration. And for us, that percentage growth was way above what Amazon has reported at their holistic level for year-on-year, month-on-month comparisons. But what we saw in our business quite differently, and there's some reasons to this, I'm pretty sure, Becca, you might want to talk about it with one of your clients. We had one client that was doing phenomenal sales. In fact, Becca, I'm pretty sure we're going to cover this, so I won't steal your thunder on this, but our client too did not hit the level that Amazon saw in terms of their own Prime Day growth. And for us, Prime Day 2 is about 60% of the size of Prime Day 1. And the final point here is around that 15th, we've just got a bit of a question now of what does that mean for the remainder of the month? Have people brought all of their spending forward? And are we now seeing a little bit of a decay in sales towards the end of July? We've also got a little bit of a question mark here around our own data integrity and whether there's a lag coming through in the data. This chart has changed every time we've pulled it for the last 3 or 4 days. That lag has stabilized, but we're still sensing there might be a little bit of a reporting glitch coming through Amazon's data here that means that lag stroke decay possibly isn't just decay, but equally isn't just lag. We probably need a few more days for that data just to stabilize. And the final kind of chart is looking at the shape of the days. How did Prime Day perform hour by hour? And this was really, really interesting. I used to work retail side, and this is something we could see around Black Friday. How did Black Friday kick off? How did it accelerate? When did people buy? And whether you can take anything from this as an organization is one thing, but I just find it really curious as to why was the consumer up at 8 a.m. spending huge amounts of money on Amazon when most of us are taking kids to school, getting in the car to go to work, making the morning coffee. The size of this event is huge. Even at 7 a.m., kind of 6 to 7 a.m. peak was pretty significant on the 11th. People start to spend in huge volumes way ahead of when they'd normally spend on those days. There was a little bit of a blip around lunchtime, mid-afternoon lull, I think, as people realised they'd still got work to do or maybe needed to earn some cash to pay for the purchases. And then that evening peak at around 8 p.m. before falling off the cliff around 10 p.m. By 11, Prime Day 1 was pretty much done. And that, it may sound obvious because there's only a day left, but that literal drop off a cliff edge from 8, 9, 10 o'clock is very kind of obvious. Again, this is our client data. We've got some reasons why Prime Day 2 was lower than Prime Day 1, but seeing that sales activity didn't really kick in until 10 a.m. You know, is this the consumer's mindset of day 1, I've got to get up and get those deals, but day 2, maybe the deals have gone, it's not quite as exciting. But what we also then saw was the evening peak pushed back an hour. Now, I haven't paid too much attention to Amazon's own media schedule, but this could be driven by Amazon. Get the deals now, Prime Day is ending, are there TV spots running at 9 p.m, or is it just a consumer mindset? But I think for me, having seen this and understood it, we naturally start to think about how do we shape advertising budgets up? How do we start to move our advertising budgets for clients at Amazon around during the day? Do we invest mid-afternoon on day 1, or do we put our budgets heavy in the early part of the day and heavy in the last part of the day? Who knows what we'll do with that? But I think seeing this kind of data just at least opens us up to those kind of questions. A couple of very quick summaries before we kind of move on to the conversation. So ad spend across our clients grew by 51% over the Prime Day event. From that, ad sales, revenue from advertising grew 93%. And at the same time, ACOS came down 7 percentage points. So this drove a really efficient event for advertising on Amazon. And at the same time, conversion grew by 1 percentage point across our advertising campaigns overall. So what you have here is much more volume available. That allows you to spend more, but the buying intent is actually there as well, which drives a really good opportunity for advertisers. How you use that in your business, is that about driving new to brand customers? Is that just purely about driving volume? This just opens up a huge amount of opportunity because of the volume and efficiency across that period. So for us, I kind of summarise this. It's a high volume, high buying intent, great sales opportunity event. But I think the question that I've been left with through Prime Day is, what about profit? I think that leads me quite nice into opening up the conversation with our 2 guests for today. So I'll kind of close that down. Happy to take any questions from people that have come from that data if you want to pop them into the Q&A session. And we'll come back to those later on. I think now, just to move on to the conversation with Becca and Ananda, I think what I'd like to, ladies, if you don't mind, I want to kind of divide the conversation into almost 2 areas. And I'll start off maybe just talking to you both individually about what did you do for Prime Day, what were your expectations, and then maybe kind of talk to you about whether you did or didn't do Prime Day discounts and see what happened with your own businesses or clients. I think, Becca, if I can come to you first, I appreciate you're not talking about a single client. You represent a number of businesses. But could you perhaps give us an overview of your strategy or strategies for Prime Day? What were the key pillars of your approach over the couple of days last week?
So we obviously oversee a number of clients within my pod. And we had a number of strategies across them clients. I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear. We had some clients that participated really strongly in Prime Day, beauty clients in particular, where we know the price is at the front of the customer's minds. We had some clients who participated purely for a stock clearance point of view, just to try and reduce some of the stock levels sat in Amazon. And then we had some, for the love of me, some non-Prime Day participants, which I've come from a retail background similar to you, Andy, and I've always seen that Black Friday lull. So it's something that I've always carried forward into Prime Day as well, is expect the unexpected. But when we've looked at it, we've looked at a number of things. So looking historically back at what other competitors within the category has done, understanding if they're playing with their price point pre-Prime Day, which is what we saw quite a lot in Prime Day 2 last year, especially in beauties. People were putting their prices up pre-Prime Day. But then understanding that it's not just about a one-size-fits-all for promotions. It can be a number of different promotional types, a number of different promotional discounts, and even buy one, get ones if we wanted to go down that route with some of our clients. We then also teamed up with our paid advertising managers within the business to ensure that we were front-loading budget, so making the most of the traffic that was coming, trying to maximise on those visitors that are coming in. And then what you'll have seen, similar to the graph that you're showing, is that ad budget has then dropped off at the back end of the month for a softening, because we know that traffic drops off.
I expected nothing less than detail there, Becca. Brilliant. Knowing how you've looked at those clients over the last kind of month in the planning, I think it's interesting about almost the artificial discounting in beauty of hiring the price, you can then offer a low discount. What were your expectations from Prime Day then? What did you expect, and how did your expectations compare to the results?
I've been on Amazon for a long time, so I think I've seen a lot of Prime Days come and go. It's probably one of the most surprising in that it felt quite flat in terms of the celebration around clients. My expectations are, and we share this with our clients, is pre-Prime Day, especially from the announcement of when Prime Day is launched to actual Prime Day. That's when you start to see your initial drop off in terms of conversion. So you'll see your traffic spikes because people are going, searching, adding to baskets or wish lists, waiting for those discounts, and then you'll start to see your conversion drop. Prime Day for me isn't really incremental sales. It's generally a redistribution of retail sales. So you'll see that quite a lot of our clients last week only saw week-on-week uplifts in the sort of 10s, 20s, rather than really significantly. We do have one standout client, which we'll come on to, but the majority of them just saw their sales being redistributed from where they'd had a slightly slower start to the week.
Interesting. So can you show us, Becca, before we can move on to Ananda, just a particular success or challenge that stood out for you during this Prime Day in particular?
Yeah, I've got two, if that's okay. I have a client that sits in the grocery category who didn't discount, and the challenge for us was holding our nerve through Prime Day 1. We can generally see throughout the day what they would kind of be trending on for the day's sales, and we started really slow, to the point where I was sweating cobs because I wasn't sure whether or not we were going to start to see any sales come through. But we luckily held our nerve, and they're one of the clients within my portfolio that actually maintained and grew week on week, and didn't step back at the back end of the week, which I think is a really positive thing to see. We also have a client within the home category, and they saw an absolutely astronomical Prime Day, and all they offered was 5% off, but so much so that it did 4 weeks worth of sales in a day, and we just hadn't anticipated that. So by the time that we got to Prime Day 2, we'd run out of our best-selling line. So that's why quite a lot of our figures that you've shown at the beginning, Andy, that obviously Day 2 drop off is because of that client. So it's kind of a tale of two halves, really.
Yeah, so for us, it's almost like that Day 1 was probably over-exaggerated because of the huge volume increase there. Yeah, I know you well enough, Becca, when you say you were sweating cobs, you're kind of the kind of person that likes to drive action. If you were sat there seeing nothing happening, I know you'd been sat with the trigger finger ready to go. So well done for holding your nerve and holding off on that one. And Andrew, if I could say again, sorry, Becca.
It's keeping the client's nerves. So we had emails coming back and forth from the client saying, "Shall we go?" And it was just holding our nerves on that.
Yeah, and it does show the value of having access to that data to understand do we or don't we do something. But then it does come down to how long can you hold for and can you do something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Becca. Ananda, maybe kind of similar kind of questions for you. Could you outline your strategy at Applied Nutrition for Prime Day? How did it differ from previous years? Was it the same? What did you do?
Well, so we went for the discount. So as a manufacturer, we have more room to play around with our prices. And last year, it was quite difficult for us, taking in consideration the increase on price, cost of goods, everything was a little bit crazy. And luckily enough, this year, things are starting to get more in control. And it was a nice opportunity for us to give that back to the customer, just make sure that the customer would have access to that kind of discount. And behind each product that we decided to go for Prime Day, the main difference compared to last year, it was to have one strategy behind. So every single product, my goal was not to have like 100 products with a deal price. It was to have a handful, nice selection of products, but thinking what I want with this product. Do I want to drive trial? So a few products will have size variations, and it was a nice opportunity for us to drive trial with the smaller packs, so people would be more confident to buy the bigger pack and invest more money, because that's something that's tricky as well. Now that the cost of products, people are thinking twice before buying something that's 50 pounds, 60 pounds. And interesting data that we saw across the board for us is the average basket decreased compared to last year. So last year it was 28 pounds, this year was 23. So quite a deep decrease that we can note. See people just being more mindful about the purchase. So behind the products, we needed to think what we want to achieve with this product is to launch a new flavor, drive trial, is to clear stock. So we selected less asins compared to last year, but with more confidence in what we wanted to achieve with each product.
Sounds like a very, very strategic Prime Day, Ananda. I think lots of thought behind not what should you do with the event, why should you do discount, how can you use it to your business advantage, not just grab a sales opportunity. So that's refreshing to hear.
Yes, it's because Prime Day is just 2 days. So you have the whole month, you have other month coming, and you need to keep growing your business month on month. And Prime Day for us was a nice opportunity to move ranking as well. So we chose products that we saw the opportunity to increase ranking, and that's helping us to keep performing quite well even after Prime Day. So it's thinking more than the day itself. It's thinking about the strategy, how Prime Day will be part of our strategy in the long run.
Yeah,
fantastic. And how did the results match up with your expectations, Ananda? How did you do?
It was quite positive. We try to monitor quite a different KPI. So it's not just about the sales revenue, but we are looking at new to brand customers, and Amazon is giving us more data in terms of that. It's a very interesting data for us to make sure we are presenting our brand to more customers. Also, we want to keep moving ranking and to keep good stock levels. So it was very good overall. We saw our graphic was quite similar to what you show. First day, quite strong. Second day, not so much. But overall, we were quite happy and pleased with the results we achieved.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ananda. And then same final question for you on this section. What was your one highlight or learning from Prime Day this year?
Wow, can be a negative highlight.
It can be, absolutely. It's called a low lights. Let's go with that.
Yes. So first day, beautiful, all deals live, everything happening in the way that we expected. But at some point of the day, I noticed a little countdown on the deals that was showing they would end at midnight. I was, what? Because we prepared and our forecast was to keep the deals going for the 2 days. When we approached our Amazon account manager, we had nothing about a 1 day deal or splitting deals. So I was a little bit confused, reach out Amazon, but as you can expect, they were really busy and it was very difficult to get an answer. Second day, all deals were off. So I was panicking a little bit because we had all that stock prepared and people were navigating, wanted to buy with money, ready to make the purchase, and our deals were off. So we tried to hold to get an answer from Amazon. It was very difficult. And by midday, we made the decision to just drop the price as a sale price. So it wasn't showing as a top deal Prime Day. It was just a sale price, but that way we managed to save the day 2 of discounts. So my takeaway from that is for Prime Day, you always need to be ready. So it was very stressful, but as everything else was in place, so the storefront was looking nice, was approved, was running. We were confident about the listings and the ads were performing. We made sure the budgets and the bids were under control, but in good terms for Prime Day. So we had that mental space and time to really focus on the problem that was happening, because problems will keep coming no matter how ready you feel when you are for that.
Excellent. Thanks, Ananda. This feels like almost the introduction to every new business meeting I'm going to at the moment. We start off with Amazon have caused me a problem and it turns into a counseling session. It's the one thing I think everybody around the Amazon community is aware of. Nothing will go to plan and Amazon can be challenging. And it's quite interesting to see how you dealt with that and actually volume opportunity. Let's just drop the price, because that's the lesser of two evils. Do nothing or drop price. You can still get some opportunity. So fair play. It feels here I've also got kind of two, I won't say opposing views. You kind of got you and Ananda very much did do Prime Day. You had some real strategic reasons behind that. I want to say did do Prime Day. You kind of went with a discounting approach. Becca, you sound to be much more, with your particular clients anyway, more strategic around the don't do heavily discounts because there are other kind of factors at play. I think, Ananda, if I can maybe kind of stay in your direction first and talk about kind of you and doing the Prime Day discounts. You've talked a little bit about this already, but how did you decide what products to put on sale for Prime Day? What factors played a role in that decision making?
Yeah, that's a very difficult balance because you want to make sure you're still profitable. But if you are seeing Prime Day as one investment, you need to kind of find that perfect balance. Prime Day for us is always a good opportunity to go back to our catalog to see the products that we have and what's coming as well. One of the products that it was on sale this year, it was a product that we have in our catalog for 2-3 years now, but we were launching new flavors. So we made the decision to give the discount in the old product, the product that the unflavored version, let's say, but inside the same list, and the flavored one was there with a better price because it's a serving size smaller. So it was quite appealing. Even looking at the discount and what we saw, it was people just going for both. So, okay, I will buy this one because there is a discount going on, but I will take this one because I knew it's a flavored version. I will give it a go. So it's very important for us to always try to keep that balance between profitability, but the goals that we have behind, and making sure that we keep our margins and we know what's going on, just to be on top of the profit and loss. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Amazon squeezes everything that you have in terms of fees, and there is always something new going on. And the ads, they are becoming more and more expensive depending your category. So you need to make sure that you are on top of that. It's a difficult balance, but knowing your product and going into data, it's very helpful.
And how do you strike that balance, Ananda? I think one of the things I've heard from you is there's this new to brand customer that you're going after. Some of this is about you've got margin to play with. I'm certainly not asking you to say, here's my margin, here's where I can go. But how do you strike that balance between I'm willing to discount to what level to get a new customer? How do you work out where the line sits on that?
I feel like the secret is to look individually at the product. As we had multiple strategies across the catalog, we needed to take, okay, this product, what we want with this one. Are we happy to lose a little bit in our margin at certain level, let's say 30%, to make sure that we are driving traffic to other products that we are launching? Okay, sounds good. So maybe take this one-to-one approach. And this is why, in our opinion and in our decision to go for Prime Day, it's not about discounting 100 products. It's going smaller, but making sure that you know what you are doing and that you are confident with the numbers of those products.
Excellent. And how do you manage your inventory around Prime Day, Ananda? I feel like I'm asking you probably the worst question here, because I think you planned Prime Day. And I can't wait to ask you this question, Becca, as well, because I know your challenges. But you planned for Prime Day, you've expected to sell X, but then you got your deals pulled on day 2. So kind of you've probably expected more than you got. So, how do you manage that whole situation before, during, and can you even manage it during Prime Day? And what are you doing after Prime Day with the stock?
It's very difficult because as our business is growing so fast, even month to month, it's a challenge to keep making sure your forecast is matching your sales and you are not paying more fees than you should be paying with overstock on Amazon. So what helps us a little bit is to take data from previous year. And after Prime Day, I really like to do like a little report, like notes for myself in the future. So I'll add like the main takeaways of the Prime Day. Okay, we prepared with 100% more stock, and that worked well on this and this SKU. And next year I can look back at that. And we had Black Friday as well. So I try to pick data from last Prime Day, last Black Friday, make a middle ground from that data to try to forecast. But there is always the risk of being overstocked after Prime Day. And this is why it's always good to have on mind, okay, if this product I don't sell as much as I expect, maybe in 2 months' time, I can give another discount in the middle between what was Prime Day discount, just to keep pushing that product and have some ads behind that, not just during Prime Day, but the ads keep going, just to make sure the listing keep the volume.
Do you have short shelf lives on your products, Ananda, or is it relatively long-lasting products?
It's 2 years, most of the shelf life. So we still have some room to play around that.
I was dreading you saying you got 3 months, because that would be quite an interesting challenge, but at least you're back into a corner. I was going to wait for your post-Prime Day discount deals then before I bought something.
Yeah, there is always a Black Friday around the corner.
Yeah, we'll get you back after that for the next conversation. You've talked a lot about this kind of desire for new to brand customers. Did you see anything different in the consumer behaviour over Prime Day? Did anything stand out?
Well, as I mentioned, we saw the average basket going down. That's very when people don't know the brand and they are talking about products that can cost up to 70-80 pounds, they will go smaller to try. So we have some smaller packs that are performing quite well, and Prime Day really showed us with data that how well those packages are performing, especially when we want to attract new to brand customers. Also, this year it was quite a strong Prime Day compared to last year for us. It was 3 times bigger than last year. Wow. So really exciting to see those numbers coming together. But I must say that the work behind Prime Day was 3 times bigger as well. So we are coming from last year, not the business was on a transition period, so the deals, we just wanted to be part of it, but with no strategy behind. This year we really our focus was to be more strategically, and sounds like we manage, and we are managing, because it's not a 2 days thing, so it's carry on. That's good.
Fantastic. And a final question for you, Ananda, before I can move on to probing Becca, who is technically didn't do Prime Day discount side of things. Did you get what you wanted out of Prime Day, and what would you do differently next year, apart from making sure you've got Amazon's direct phone number to sort your discounts out on day 2?
Yes. So we increased our sales. It was very nice to see our products moving in a better ranking in some tough categories, and we are keeping that new ranking now. So we are trying to put some effort into that. That's always very good to see. So I would say that we achieved what we wanted with the selection of products that were on deal. And for next year, I feel like I would be a little bit more experimental. So we went for safe products this year. Next year, I would like to put some other products into the mix, products that usually are not the best selling, to see how we can grow reviews, how we can make those listings that are average listings better after Prime Day. So to try more, to be a little bit more bolder with the decisions, maybe.
That's interesting what you said in there about the rankings piece. I was just trying to pull the data up as you were talking there, but one of our clients, I'll keep the data on it relatively confidential, but they grew 40 rankings in the category off the back of the Prime Day discount. So understanding the role of Prime Day isn't just about discount, it isn't just about revenue, it's not just about profit, but it can be about new to brand customers, it can be about driving your longer term Amazon strategy. And the thing I'm taking from this is it's not just about the 2 days, it's about everything else before, during and after, and not just the immediate after, it's about longer term piece. And hearing you kind of looking at what you do to drive rankings is quite nice to hear.
Yeah, because that is what will secure you a growth in the long run, just to make sure you keep those ASINs performing well and you are making the most of it. So that's the main goal for us as a brand.
That's great. I think, dare I say, it almost allows you to justify sacrificing profits, because you know that in the next peaks, for you, I guess you see a huge peak in January, for you to build velocity and rankings before January is hugely important. So actually you may be doubling profit in January while sacrificing some profit on 2 days in July, but that's part of a longer term game.
Yeah, especially because our products, we are talking about sports supplements. So people that start to use, the goal is to keep using that product for a long period of time. And we have variety of size and flavor. So there is always something new that people can keep coming back to try.
Fantastic. Ananda, thank you for all that. I can already see some questions coming in, so we certainly will be back to you. There's definitely some questions coming in your direction from the audience. Just another reminder, if you anything you do want to ask, please pop it into those questions and we'll come back to that in about 15 minutes time. Becca, so kind of taking the side of your clients that necessarily haven't gone heavy with discounting, can you maybe share some of the rationale behind your clients or brands that we've worked with that haven't done heavy discounts during Prime Day, and how did that affect their performance during the event?
Yeah, I think I totally side and understand where Ananda's coming from. There's a couple of things I think you can build on when you're thinking about a long-term Amazon strategy. if we think about the amount of promotional activity that Amazon do, we've got January deals, spring deals, plus category deals, Prime Day 1 and 2, Fall Prime Day, Black Friday, Christmas. You know, you're almost going to be in promotion for the majority of the year. So for me, it's thinking about how your customer mix and what they're shopping. If they're happy to shop at full price, why wouldn't you maintain full price when you're going into pre-promotion? The specific grocery client that we used, we didn't discount anything, and we fronted our ads, and they had a really strong Prime Day, and we're going to maintain the same theory throughout the next Prime Day and Black Friday. We're bestseller in our category. We didn't drop any rankings because of it, because there's a pure natural traffic increase. Conversion sits there or thereabouts at all times. You can see promos helping conversion, but if you've got a product that you know does well, that you've recently launched or you're trying to experiment with, I can understand why you would discount. For us, it was a case of we don't make enough profit on Amazon to heavily discount during Prime Day. We know there'll be a natural traffic increase. We know there'll be CPC increases. So it's about protecting that bottom line at the end of the day. But also understanding that we're not a price first strategy. We will trade at full price. We won't drop to some of Amazon's vendor pricing so that we can compete with the category. And we've managed to dominate that category by doing so.
That's really interesting. I think it sounds like a lot of that is coming from that confidence in the market position of that brand. And dare I say it, that the strength of being able to say, we don't need to do this, or we don't see a benefit of doing this, actually allows them to benefit. So I'm kind of putting words in your mouth here, Becca. It's almost like it allows them to benefit from the natural peak that's coming through without having to play the game for the sake of playing the Prime Day game.
Yeah, I think that the past couple of years on Amazon has very much been a case of FOMO. If you don't participate, you're going to really struggle. And Amazon very much push that message. You know, you'll hear it through vendor managers, through any kind of Amazon contact that you've got. You must participate in Prime Day, and it's just simply not the case. You can participate by just having a buy box, and I think that's the most important thing. Is as long as your product's on there and for sale, it doesn't have to be in promo to do well.
It's a really, really good point. I think when I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn looking at kind of around the Amazon community, and Prime Day is everything that you've seen and heard everywhere. Dare I say, and I'll sit here running a webinar on the topic of Prime Day, almost ironically, but everything around our sector becomes Prime Day. And I think what it sounds like you're saying there, Becca, is also just stop and say why. It's like, why would I do this? And that doesn't mean why would I do it or not do it. It's think about why you would do it and then take advantage of it in the way that works for your brands, as you kind of done with our grocery clients. Yeah,
exactly. You know, we've had beauty clients that have done a split promo. So some products that we know are not going to replenish until, say, November time, didn't go into promo, but were our best selling line because of that natural traffic increase. People have held off buying it and then have bought on Prime Day because you've not discounted. So I think that there's almost a lack of customer understanding as well. I think, you know, as Amazonians, we're quite guilty of always being so focused on Prime Day. If I look out of my wider circle to people that don't necessarily work or spend their life looking at Seller Central, Prime Day is not a big thing. Everyone's waiting for Black Friday. So I do wonder whether or not the customer intent is there, specifically in the UK. I think in the US, they do a lot bigger story around Amazon and there's a lot more belief. But specifically in the UK, I don't think that the Prime Day message is out there as wide as Amazon would particularly like it to be.
It's a really good point, actually. It's how big an event is this? I think when you're in the community, when you're working, as I guess most people are that are listening today, within the Amazon world, it's a big thing. And quite rightly so, because there's a huge opportunity, as we've all seen. But you step out of that and go and talk to your mum, your dad, your next door neighbour, actually is Prime. Ironically, apart from my street, where on every single Friday, there's about 500 empty Amazon boxes going out for recycling, most of which are outside my house, but that's a different story. But what there is there still, Becca, is that when people are on Amazon, there is that big Prime Day thing. You can't miss Prime Day when you're on Amazon on Prime Day. So how, with your clients, have you managed the consumer's expectation of value and discount, and how brands that have not done Prime Day been able to stay competitive on Prime Day without doing that discounting?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with customer education, so understanding the value behind the price point. With quite a lot of our clients, we don't go forward with a promotional price first. We are very much a business that quite a lot of my clients trade at full price anyway. And I think if you've got the mentality where you're coming onto Prime Day and you're hoping a product's in sale, but you still want it or need it. You know, I work with quite a lot of FMGC, and I think that's where it sits slightly different to Ananda. FMGC, you either need it or you don't. You're not going to then wait to see if in a month's time you'll do a discount, So I do think
sorry, Becca, but people will buy anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. People will buy because they need or want. So it's for us, the challenge is holding the nerve of the client. But it's not something I would necessarily do differently next. In fact, we were talking to a client yesterday about Prime Day in fall and just not participating at all because of how close that is to Cyber Monday and Black Friday.
Yeah, I guess choosing where to participate, which event gives you the opportunity, and how do you want to use that event. Becca, I know we're talking to you about not doing Prime Day discounts. I was going to throw an extra question here that might be a little bit off piece, but I know you had one client in the mix who did a little bit of Prime Day discounting. I want to ask you the inventory question that I asked Ananda. Just go, please. How are you not able to manage inventory when Prime Day throws a surprise at you?
Well, we thought we were doing really well, if I'm honest, Andy. We generally run to a 60-day stock cover. That line had been a bestseller that we constantly had loads of stock in, and it was a completely unprecedented event. We never could have expected it to do the amount of sales that it did, and it did hurt us. You can see it just purely on our graphs how much it had an impact on our Prime Day too. But we were very lucky and very fortunate in that, because of the size packs and the way that the account is set up, where the bestseller went out of stock, we saw people buying 2s and 3s of other sizes. So having almost that alternate. But then on the flip side of that, we have a lot of clients that will run FBA as a sole fulfillment, but then they'll also have FBM to back up just in case. So I think it's just about edging your bets and hoping that you've got enough.
Excellent. Thank you, Becca. A couple more questions kind of around your section, really. Can you share any of the observations that you've had on customer behaviour or market trends during Prime Day? You kind of represent a broad portfolio of clients, most of which didn't run very kind of heavy discounts. What kind of behaviour did you see across that kind of pool of clients that weren't running discounts? Definitely
a trend pre-Prime Day around people holding off and waiting. And then, as I say, seeing Prime Day hit and that redistribution of balancing the rest of the week was definitely a visible sign for us. I think when you look at the other categories, we can see that people are shopping for the sake of shopping, whereas FMGC is driven through a necessity. You do need to buy these products. If you're sat looking on a week's worth of pasta that you've got left, or a week's worth of anything really, you're going to buy it even if it's in discount. So for us, by not discounting, we made the most of Prime Day. We got the traffic, we still got the strong conversion rate, and we managed to maintain sales. And I honestly think that the Amazon customer isn't as tuned in to a discount as much as they would be around Black Friday. Interesting. I think there's almost, to me, that perception of there is value to be had on Amazon. It's Prime Day, therefore it's cheaper. And I don't see, so data insights I've been looking at, you don't see a lot of comparison on Amazon. There is an assumption it's a cheap channel, and the assumption it's at value. So when there's an event on, is the consumer truly aware that that is a deal or not? Is probably a question that we could do get into the bottom of. Becca, I'm dreading asking you these questions. I know how ambitious and focused you are. Did you get what you wanted out of Prime Day? I know you'll always want more, Becca, but did you get what you wanted out of it? And what would you do differently next year? I think it's a tale of two halves. I think for some clients, I did get exactly what I wanted. For some clients, I think you're always left wanting more. But for us, it's looking post Prime Day at the wider categories and understanding that just if we had a slight drop off, did the rest of the category. Our client that maintained full price is still probably 6 times the price of most products within that category, and was the only product that didn't drop off from a units point of view over Prime Day. So I think it's just having that wider knowledge of your client and your client products as well. Would I do anything different next Prime Day? Work a lot harder to convince some of my clients to not discount, if I'm honest. Controversial. Yeah, I think profit has got to be the main thing. Amazon put their fees up in April. We're sat here in some clients with single figure percentiles for profit. It's about protecting the bottom line as much as we can now. And I think that customer intent is more around buying what you need rather than buying for the sake of it. And I do think that Prime Day funds I'm buying it because it's in discount. That's some really interesting viewpoints, I think. And under what I'm taking from your part of the conversation, there are some really, really good reasons to do Prime Day, but you have to really, really think about why you want to do Prime Day, what you can get out of it from a business point of view.
I think from your conversation, it's also a decision to sacrifice margin for other advantage. I think it's understanding, is that other advantage big enough to warrant doing that and playing that game? And I think from you, Becca, what I'm hearing here is it's also a flip of that. It's the same question, but I'm saying, why would I sacrifice margin? Do I need to sacrifice margin if the value of just being in a big high traffic event can actually drive me a load of sales just because of the volume and intent on the platform? I think that's quite an interesting dichotomy that you've got there, because you could pick any client, any client in our world, Becca, any brand, for those that look and go, what should I do? Because some products could be discounted, some products might not be discounted. It's really about what are you trying to achieve as a business, and bringing that back down to how do you go about it and how can you maximize that event. And dare I say it, whether it is Black Friday or Prime Day or January sale, the same kind of principle applies. Why would you do what you plan to do? If I can just bring us back together before I go on to all these questions, there's a fair few coming in which are looking pretty good, actually. Before we do that, can I just ask you both maybe reflect on your respective strategies and results? What would you consider as the key takeaways for businesses looking to leverage Amazon Prime Day? Ananda, can I come to you first on that one, please?
Yes, sure. The takeaway for me is to be ready, is to prepare as much as possible. You don't start to think about Prime Day in June. So you start in January, February to think about the products that will be on deal, the stock, to make sure that you have the manufacturer aligned with that. But bottom line for me is, in the end of the day, it's about content. So it's not just the price. Your listing needs to be ready. You need to have a good title, the keywords, and good images, appealing A+. So no matter how much discount you give in one product, in the end of the day, is the content that will make the difference for you to keep those customers happy and returning. So it's always a nice opportunity for us to review our listings to see what the competition is doing, what else can we be doing, and to really analyze and use that bigger traffic on a sales event to think bigger.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ananda. And Becca?
It's a really good point, around planning so early. I think what was really interesting for me taking away from this Prime Day is, even before Prime Day had launched, Amazon had launched deals for Prime Day in fall and Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So Amazon aren't even waiting to see whether or not Prime Day 1 is a success before thinking about the future. For me, I think it does come down to a couple of things. I think if I was launching new products, I would be potentially running Prime Day deals or running some sort of deal to push traffic. But at the end of the day, I think you have to understand your customer. I think you have to understand the life cycle of your product. If you're discounting every 3 months, someone's buying a product and it's a 3-month product, someone's basically buying on discount all the time. Understanding how...
I think somebody might have sat on Becca's internet connection.
Subscribe and say if it's into... Oh, am I back?
You're back, Becca. Welcome back.
Oh, sorry, I just was in a flow there. Where was I up
to? As soon as you've rejoined us, Becca, let's jump into those audience questions. I'm conscious we've got a few that we want to get here, so I want to cherry pick these. I want to click the Start Live Answer button. I think that will put the question on the screen. I'm dreading possibly inviting people into the call. So let's see what actually happens. We're going to take the first question here from Josh. So, would having a Seller Central account be more beneficial to a vendor account for participating in Prime Day? That's quite an interesting little angle to come from. Ananda, can I just ask, how are you selling it? Are you seller or vendor?
We have the 2 accounts, seller and vendor, but our main operation is on seller. Vendor is more for the bulk orders and products with high volume. So all our Prime Day strategy was behind the seller accounts, our main focus at the moment. So it's really difficult for me to compare. We never tried to do Prime deals and Black Friday deals using the vendor accounts. Quite difficult for me to compare both.
I'm wondering, Ananda, how would you have fared on day 2 if all of your Prime Day discounts were on your vendor lines and the deals hadn't been enabled? Would you have been able to respond in that instance, or would it have been tough?
I don't know. To be honest, Andy, that was really unexpected.
Yeah. So one of the kind of angles I can see is put more flexibility around the seller side of things. You can drop your price, you can control the price. On day 2, could you have done that on the vendor account? Yeah, I think you might have had your back in a corner there. But Becca, any views from you on this question?
Yeah, I think it's a 50-50 split. I think we probably wouldn't have been in a position where we would have sold through stock if vendor, because they hold so much more than seller. But on the flip side, had what happened to us happened on a vendor account that happened to Ananda, there's nothing we could have done because it can take up to 7 days for a promo to be approved on vendor. So for me, I would say seller, but I always lean into seller as a favourite anyway.
For the agility side of things, and the ability to move and respond.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's jump on to the next one we have in the list. Real nice question that's coming from Jay. Very short and sharp. One for each of you guys. We'll start with you first, Becca, since I put Ananda under the spotlight first last time. What would be your number one Prime Day tip and your number one mistake to avoid?
Prime Day tip, don't discount. Oh. And number one mistake to avoid would be artificially inflating your CPCs. So just because the category is going up doesn't necessarily mean that you have to match that. So just being a lot more aware of what's happening with ads. We're very lucky within the business that we've got the paid ad managers that will look into this and interrogate this daily for us. But just be aware that just because CPCs are rising doesn't necessarily mean you need to match and compete.
Fantastic. Thank you, Becca. Ananda?
For me, the main tip would be to don't go with the flow of discounting everything and just overthinking about numbers. Oh, I need to have a massive deal on on loads of products and discount all my catalog. Just keep it simple, but know what you are doing with the products that you decide to go. And nowadays, when you think about discount, sometimes don't need to be 50%, don't need to be 40%. We saw some great results with 15 to 20%. So it's more about what's behind that. And mistake would be to trust your Amazon account managers to submit your deals.
And you've been burned by that, Ananda. I can tell it's scarred you as that experience.
Yes, it was a trauma.
Thank you. I think my number one tip would be to ask why. When you look at Prime Day, ask why are you doing this? Don't just do Prime Day because Prime Day exists. I think I'm probably giving a bit of a politician's answer, straddling both your viewpoints here, but ask why you're doing it, think about it and plan carefully. Number one mistake to avoid, doing it for the sake of it. I think jumping in with both feet and doing Prime Day because there's a volume opportunity. You've got to think about why you're doing this and what is your playbook for Prime Day will give you a much kind of bigger level of success. Let's kind of scroll down this list. We'll probably take one or two more before we kind of close off. Let's take this one that's come in from Jonathan, specifically for you, Ananda. Did you see a higher proportion of existing customers buying into Prime Day deals or a higher proportion of new customers to your brand?
Existing customers, it was the highest proportion. We wanted to go more to new to brand, but even supporting with deals and all the discounts is still more for existing customers. So we hope to find other strategies to keep pushing new to brand customers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And let's pick one more off the list here. Who else have we got? Let's, Ananda, I'm afraid it's for you again, but we'll take this one from Chris. Ananda, how do you assess where your split between contribution to discounts is versus an increase in spend on sponsored products or brands during an event? So this question is, do you discount heavier or do you throw more money into advertising? And where does that balance sit and why have you made that kind of decision?
Well, I think the guys that works with the spreadsheets for me because we know our break-even ACOs, and we are very mindful of that to make sure that we don't overspend and we don't go crazy on the promotions. But adding another layer with the discount, we need to be really close to that, and this is why we don't go so heavy in the discounts. So maximum discount we gave in Prime Day was 25%, so that way we can still protect our bids and make sure that we are spending necessary on ads to support the sales, but we just don't go crazy and end up losing money, because it's quite easy on Amazon when you see the sales coming, the sessions, people are buying, and let's increase the ad spend, the budget, let's go, and in the end of the day you will check your data and you just lost money. So you saw an amazing volume, but in the end of the day it wasn't profitable. So knowing your numbers and making the maths good spreadsheets helps as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ananda. It's very much that profit that's driving that. It's not just discounting for the sake. It's understanding where that balance sits and how you can still run a successful event. Fantastic. Well, look, we've run over a little bit. I'm conscious I kind of got this in for about 45 minutes. We've run on for 55, but thanks to you two guys. Some really, really good discussion and conversation there. Thanks to those in the audience that have stuck about and for putting all those questions forward. Thank you very much for joining us. This is part of our now monthly series of webinars called the Expert Series. Our next topic will be in about 4 weeks' time, where we'll be joined by Jake Browett to talk about Amazon advertising and some of the new things that he uncovered at Cannes on his trip there with Amazon just a couple of weeks back. Keep your eye out for that. We'll send you an email and invite all of you back along to that. But actually, just to thank you two ladies. Thank you very much for giving up some of your time this morning. And I don't know how much you've got going in your business, and Becca, I don't know how much you've got going on. So thank you very much for being so open, sharing as much as you can do with us, and bringing all that to us today. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody for joining us.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.